Imagine stopping at a quiet campground in Utah, setting up your tent, walking through thousands of trees. Without realizing, you're technically standing inside a single living organism. That sounds impossible, like one of those fake internet stories people invent online. But hidden in central Utah, there's a place called Pando, and scientists believe it might be one of the largest living organisms on Earth. Not the largest tree, not the largest forest, one organism. And the deeper people studied it, the stranger it became. Because Pando doesn't look unusual at first. It just looks like a normal aspen forest inside Fish Lake National Forest. There are roads cutting through it, campgrounds inside it. People drive through it every summer without thinking twice. But underneath the surface, every single tree is connected. The trunks you see above ground are not separate trees. They're all part of the same root system, meaning this entire forest is technically one giant living thing. Scientists estimate Pando contains more than 40,000 genetically identical stems, spread across over 100 acres, which means you can literally hike through an organism larger than many towns. And almost nobody realizes they're inside it. That alone is already weird enough. But the deeper researchers looked into Pando, the less it started feeling like a normal forest. Because different sections of this tree began behaving like entirely different ecosystems. Some parts were dense and healthy, others were collapsing. Some areas had thick regrowth, while others had almost none at all. And eventually, scientists realized something disturbing was happening. Pando was slowly dying, not from disease, not from fire, but because deer and cattle were eating the younger stems faster than the organism could replace itself, which created a bizarre situation where one of the oldest and largest living organisms on Earth was being quietly damaged by ordinary grazing animals. And somehow, that's not even the strangest part, because Pando isn't the only place where humans accidentally built their lives. On top of gigantic living organisms, hidden beneath a forest in Oregon, there's something much worse. At first glance, it just looks like ordinary woodland, trees, dirt, trails. Nothing unusual, but underground, spreading silently beneath the forest floor, is a massive fungus called Armillaria ostoyi, also known as the Humongous Fungus. And unlike Pando, this thing feels less like a miracle of nature and more like a horror creature, because this organism doesn't peacefully coexist with the forest around it. It infects trees, kills them, consumes their roots, then slowly spreads farther underground. Scientists estimate the largest known specimen covers more than 2,000 acres, meaning an invisible living organism larger than some cities has been quietly growing beneath the forest for thousands of years. Most of the time, you never even see it. The mushrooms only appear for a few weeks each year. The rest of the organism exists underground, like a hidden network, which means people can spend their entire lives walking through that forest without realizing something enormous is alive beneath them. And this is where the entire idea starts becoming unsettling, because humans naturally think of giant creatures as obvious things: whales, dinosaurs, monsters. But some of the largest organisms on Earth don't look like creatures at all. They look like landscapes, forests, ecosystems, entire environments. And once you realize that, you start seeing nature differently. But somehow, even this gets stranger, because scientists later discovered something even larger, hidden underwater. In Shark Bay, Australia, there are massive underwater seagrass meadows stretching across protected marine waters. For years, people assumed they were just ordinary seagrass fields. Then researchers tested samples from different areas across the bay, and the results made almost no sense. The samples were genetically identical, all of them, meaning what looked like countless separate plants was actually one giant organism, a single living seagrass clone, stretching across nearly 200 square kilometers. One plant, large enough to become part of an entire marine ecosystem. At this point, the line between organism and environment almost completely disappears. And weirdly enough, humans may have been noticing this kind of thing for centuries without understanding what they were seeing. Ancient myths described giant sea creatures mistaken for islands, stories about sailors landing on land, only for it to move beneath them. For centuries, people treated stories like that as fantasy. But modern researchers studying whale behavior noticed something strange. Some whales remain almost completely motionless at the surface while feeding, and from a distance, especially in foggy conditions, they can genuinely resemble small islands, which means some ancient sea monster legends may have started as real observations that people simply didn't understand yet. And honestly, that might be the strangest part of this entire rabbit hole, because giant organisms are not hidden in alien planets or science fiction universes. They already exist here, right now, under forests, across oceans, beneath campgrounds, and most of the time, we don't even notice them. The campground inside one giant tree sounds impossible at first, but once you start looking closer, nature becomes much stranger than fiction ever was.